The Fantasy Football Heroes and Villains podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. And we're also brought to you by our NBA Playoffs Survivor Challenge. We're giving away $250 cash and a $100 gift card. Sign up today exclusively on the SGPN app. D-Gens assemble. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Heroes and Villains podcast. I am your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Andrew TD King Rob. And tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Pete Overzet. He is a creative lead at The Fantasy Life with Matthew Berry, and he also has his own YouTube channel at Pete Overzet. He is an absolute best ball stud and influencer. Hello, Andrew, and welcome, Pete. How are we doing, gentlemen?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. I know we tried to sync up a few weeks ago, and then the big board filled, and it was like, wait, what are we going to have to draft? So I'm glad our friends over at Underdog, have provided us another contest so we could get this back going tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate you being here, coming on and drafting with us. That was a bit of a disappointment, but I'm very glad that you were a great sport to circle back with us. And, now we have an even more difficult format in the Superflex option here. So very excited to get into that. Andrew, how are you doing, sir? I know you're having a pretty good day as a Commanders fan over there. It's like Christmas.
Yeah, man, what a great day. Commanders finally going to be sold. Looks like the principal is there between Dan Snyder and Josh Harris and Magic Johnson. And there's another billionaire, DC billionaire as well, that's in it. So, on top of all that, obviously one of my best ball heroes, Pete, is here with us. So, man, it's a great day. I can't wait to get going.
Yeah, very excited to jump in here. I am actually going to peek my head in the door here of this draft because I do want to get started. These, are pretty subjective on time. They can take, an hour. They can take an hour and a half. It's, pretty crazy from one draft to the next. So I'm going to go ahead and peek my head in there, guys. Just make sure you have a, kind of finger on the big red button there and be ready to go. Hopefully I don't have to waste $10. It happens. We'll see.
Wait. We'll see I need to know, am I drafting with you guys or am I trying to hop in the same draft as you guys?
Hop in the same draft. We've got 10 more spots available. 10 more spots available. We should be just fine. So jump in there.
All right, I am in. Perfect.
I'm in as
awesome.
Well. 8 more to
Fantastic. I know we got Indiana Jones, one of our regulars here in these best ball streets. I know he's going to be up in this draft. Excited to see what other friends and family members that we have joining. We've got 5 more spots to start here. Before we get into the draft here, Andrew, can you hit one more word from our sponsors, from the good folks at Shady Rays?
Of course. Yeah, man. This is one of my favorite reads and one of our favorite partnerships, Shady Rays. I've owned Shady Rays sunglasses for a while now, and they're kicking off the new year with a new gear build to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered from sun to the slopes with premier polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. If you lose or break a pair, even on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. I wear them all the time when I go boating, kayaking, hiking, do a little pickleball as well. So, if I ever crush them, it's not a big deal. I just hit them up and they hook me up with a new pair. But exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The Shady Rays, rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Shady Rays. It's a weird business plan, but it sounds like it's working. It sounds like very Michael Scott-esque, like the whole refund thing. Like, oh, I lost and broke them. Like, it feels like something that, you have a handful of people kind of coming back to over and over again. Before we get into the draft here, we've got 5 more spots to go here. Just want to mention our NBA Survivor Challenge. Make sure to check out the NBA Playoffs Survivor Challenge. It's completely free to enter, and the winner gets $250 cash and a $100 SGPN gift card. That's exclusively on the SGPN app. Kind of back to some of the best ball conversation. Pete, I wanted to ask you, are you doing any of these other best ball drafts like hockey or NBA playoffs, anything like that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've gotten obsessed with the NBA playoff best ball. I'm at 100 entries in that one. And
okay.
I know nothing about NBA. I've certainly learned a lot along the way, but obviously very similar structure to the NFL playoff best ball. And I do think it's like the funnest format on Underdog because it's just this weird puzzle where you're trying to optimize to advance out of round one, but then you also need enough for the Super Bowl and NFL or the NBA final. So I love that format. And then tomorrow, though, I'm having DJ Mitchell. A lot of you guys know him in the Underdog streets. He is going to walk me through how to draft a hockey team in the Zamboni on Underdog for the playoff hockey contest. And I literally know nothing about hockey, have never drafted a team. So if you want to see a train wreck in DJ trying to hold my hand, that's going to be tomorrow at 10 a.m. on my channel.
2 words, Jason Robertson. I think he's like winger 9, ADP 19. You lock
those 2 words might as well be in Mandarin to me because I've never heard of that guy.
Write down those Mandarin words, Jason Robertson.
So Pete, I want to ask you, how did you get involved with so much shit, man? You're on your own YouTube page, Ship Chasing, Splash Play, Swolecast, Fantasy Life newsletter, Deposit Kingdom. I subscribe to the PO Box newsletter as well. So you're on so much shit. How do you find time to do it? I know you obviously have a new daughter, April, and you just moved. So how the hell do you do your whole day-to-day life?
I mean, the first part to answer that question is just I have an improv background, and there's this adage with improv where it's like you just say yes to everything. And for a long time, I've said yes to everything and never paired anything back and never said no. So that's how you end up with a bunch of random stuff. But honestly, I wouldn't do stuff if I didn't love doing it. You know, nothing I do feels like a grind. And that's kind of, you know, what I'm fortunate that I get to pick and collaborate with a ton of different people that I really enjoy. And then, yeah, on how do I do it all? I mean, I am obviously fortunate to get to do all of this stuff for a living, my work with Fantasy Life and Underdog. But I have, since having a child, become much more efficient. I realized how much time I would like dick around. It's like, oh, I'd have something to do and I'll get on Discord or I'll get on Twitter or I'll do a draft. And now it's like, I have an hour to write this thing. I have 2 hours to make this video. You know, I have an hour to do this stream. And so I'm at least like way more on top of my shit now just because I have no choice. It's like, now I need to go be a dad. I can't dick around. I got to get this done.
Yeah, I just heard yesterday you, Leone and Crane talking about slow drafts versus fast drafts and how the slow draft you can still do shit with your family, but the fast draft you need to set an hour apart. So yeah, I was curious how you actually managed all that.
Yeah, and also I just need to do a quick celebration. I have done, I don't know, 8 or 9 of these Superflex drafts. I've never had a slot earlier than pick 6. And, you know, all the people in my chat, they're sick of me punting quarterback. They're sick of me thumbing my nose. You guys are going to get what you want tonight. Peter is going to take an elite quarterback with one of his first 3 picks.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Pete coming in here at 1-3. I'm at 1-5, and Andrew is at 1-7.
Yeah, man. God, I'm always 1-6, 1-7, or 1-8. God,
yeah.
Can't get away from it.
We do have some familiar names. I know we got Team Ramrod, Indiana Jones up in the draft. We've got DKM, Dilly. Any other names we should be on the lookout for here, Andrew?
Yeah, there's BFFL. That's Breathing Fantasy Football. Literally, he's in the chat. Anybody else you recognize, Pete?
I'm trying to see here. Normally, I recognize some of that. I don't know if I recognize any of these names.
Well, you are on the clock, so don't miss that pick.
Don't worry. My first Josh Allen share in the Superflex contest. Not gonna lie, feels really good, guys. Because I've been living in Anthony Richardson, Sam Howell, Bryce Young land for a long time.
Heard that. Yeah, we always want to be different, right? You know, I did the same thing my first go around with the Superflex. I was like, oh, Justin Jefferson, let's go. Let's get it. Like, I'm just going to take him. I was able to back him up with Kirk Cousins, but I felt lucky. I felt like, you know, someone wasn't paying attention to the draft.
So what slots do you guys have here?
I'm currently up now at 1-7.
I'm at 1-5. So Pete took Josh Allen, his first share in the Superflex format. I took Joe Burrow, Andrew,
I just took Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
I have a lot of Herbert, or else I would have did that. I also am very deep on Lawrence as well.
All right. Pete, how are you feeling about Lamar Jackson these days? A little bit better, you know, feelings with OBJ now coming to the Ravens, or is it kind of still mixed feelings?
You know what? I actually think, and this is where maybe I'm different. I think the Odell stuff is great for Lamar. I'm just not buying it that Odell is really that relevant for fantasy, especially relative to his ADP right now. I
Mhm.
mean, people seem so enthusiastic. They were enthusiastic before he even had a team. I'm just not buying it, but I do buy that it's good for Lamar, right? Any additional weapons I think is good for him. I'm just not convinced that Odell is going to sniff our starting lineups more than 1 to 2 times this year.
I can feel that.
So,
Not
so
someone
what's
that I've
your
been high on in this format.
what's your take on Bateman then? With Odell coming into town, is Bateman still good at where he's going, or do you think he's going to fall back into ADP?
No, I like Bateman still, and he to me represents the last of like a tier that I think has like legit, top 15 wide receiver upside. After him and Cortland Sutton go, and you're getting down into the Jacoby Myers and the Elijah Moores of the world, I'm like, that's a big gap for me. So I've been scooping up a lot of Bateman. I know he's been kind of snake bitten with injuries, and people are like, hey, this offense, who's the quarterback? They don't throw a ton, but his profile, he was so good in college. He still has that draft capital. And when we haven't seen a ton of production from guys, I still want to go back to what was their prospect profile? Where were they drafted? And there's no reason he can't be the number one in that offense. Obviously, Mark Andrews, but we saw him regress a little bit last year too. So I'm still in on Bateman, and I find his price very palatable.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I'm going to be up here in 2 picks. Man, I can't believe Kelsey's still hanging around. There ain't no way he sits there.
So in the first round, we had position players in Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, ouch, BFFL, ouch, and Christian McCaffrey, followed up by Cooper Kupp with the first pick of the, or I'm sorry, maybe that was the
BFFL with a
I wasn't
nice
looking
pick
over.
there of Kelsey. Man, this is where I get to the point and like I'm not really a Tua guy, so I don't want to take him here. But man, I have like zero exposure.
This is like a nice price for two. I mean, I normally see the 12 hole who took Tyreek Hill. I've been seeing that drafter double tap to get the stack there. So
Yeah.
Same.
this price, it's not too bad. And maybe
I
you
was-
get Waddle coming back.
I was very surprised to see both teams at 11 and 12 fade QB. That's very interesting. That's a very powerful position to kind of set the tone for the second round. Oh, I don't feel good about it, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Dan Jones. I don't feel great about it, but I'm gonna do it. I don't have many shares.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Dan Jones that you can hang your hat on is the rushing ability, what he could do with his legs as opposed to, old ass Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith. I don't think is going to take off and run a whole lot. So I think that's probably one of the last guys that's towards the top echelon that you can at least count on to run a little bit.
Friendly stacking opportunities for sure. And just
Yep.
because they don't have any great weapons at receiver, you just have to believe it's going to be the Saquon show, and Dan Jones is going to get some opportunity with those legs.
Yeah.
All right, so I got Joe Burrow, Dan Jones, Andrew has Lamar Jackson and Tua, and Pete has Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. Very, very solid stacking attack there. What are you thinking about here for your third pick, Pete?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I wasn't going to be, crying if someone took Diggs, just because there are plenty of stack options for Josh Allen later. But, Diggs slides a pick and a half past ADP. So I'm happy to make the click there. I do think you really start to feel the advantage for these early drafters here, because not only are you able to get a top 3 QB, you can get a top 3 or 4 wide receiver. And now I'm going to get, a top 3 or 4 running back. I do think that's the direction I'm going to go. I would love to take Devonta Adams, but I do think with this format where the wide receivers and the running backs, it's more of an equal playing field, with only being able to start 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers, that
You
I do
are on the
like
clock,
getting
by the
one.
way.
Oh, I know. This is, come
Okay.
on, you trust me. I
I was gonna say,
I'm
yeah, I
milking
assumed
it
you
for
had
Does this
dramatic
every day.
effect. I like both Bijan and Eckler, but I'll take Eckler here. I do think the second things get solidified, with Eckler's situation, I do expect him to be back with the Chargers. I think he'll immediately vault back up 4 to 5 picks. So I like Bijan a ton, but I think Bijan's price, I have a hard time envisioning it getting much more expensive. Like when you really think through the landscape of where he could go, that would rocket him up. Whereas Eckler, once those concerns are removed, I mean, he's going to be in traditional formats back to like the 1.5 or 1.6.
Yeah.
No,
Is there
I love
anybody?
all of that.
Is there anybody in these first 3 rounds that you're just completely off of? I mean, I guess you can consider it Superflex if you want, but just regular best ball drafts that don't, that aren't Superflex. Any positional players that you're fading in the first like 3 or 4 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you made that caveat because I don't like taking the second tier running backs at like the back end of round 1 or 2. Like I like what the drafter did out of the 12 hole where they went CMC Cooper Cup, because I really do think like, how are you going to beat this Mahomes, Hurts, Allen team? The only way you're going to beat me is if you have better running backs and wide receivers in most scenarios. So, but like in traditional formats, I'm looking at these names. I feel like the ADP is like really efficient with the running backs and the wide receivers. I guess, maybe I'm lower on some of the running backs. Barkley is a guy I haven't taken a lot, and now we get some risk introduced with him potentially threatening a holdout. So maybe I want a little bit more of a discount on Barkley, but man, I look at all these names and I'm like, seems fair to me. That price seems about right. Like the underdog market is just so good at pricing players that it's really hard to be like, this guy's egregiously mispriced in the early rounds.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you on the early rounds. The later rounds, I've got a bone to pick about Deontay Johnson. I just feel that that's too much disrespect. Parked all the way back up to, what is it, wide receiver 40 something, wide receiver 40,
I think it's like 36 to 35, something like that right now.
Well, that's an improvement. That's a market movement there, because I believe when I did my last article on him, he was in the 40s, 41 or 42.
Yeah, this drafter, what are your thoughts on Rodgers? I like what the team did there. I've been doing the same thing where I'm still assuming Rodgers to the Jets is eventually going to happen. So I've been stacking him with Wilson, late stacking him with a guy like Conklin or Michael Carter even. So I've been playing it that way. My only thought, like structurally, is when I have one of these elite QBs, I would rather wait to get my QB2 and QB3 and basically be like, hey, I already have this stud. I'd rather continue to build out my strength at the other position. So I don't necessarily love tapping it in this context, but in general, I think his price is fine, right? Like he's going 10th and 11th round in other formats. And so I don't mind that at all.
Any shot in your mind that he just completely stonewalls the Jets and does not do anything? He just retires.
I just think he's set to make so much money this year that it would be really hard for him not to just show up and collect that paycheck. I think what's more interesting is if this trade doesn't get done. I mean, we're coming up on when he would be needing to show up for the Packers, like offseason programs and stuff. Like, do the Packers want him there? Like, how awkward is that going to be? It's like everyone has emotionally moved on from Rodgers with the Packers, and yet he still literally is under contract with the Packers.
Very different scenario, but Jimmy Garoppolo, he not the same level of player, but he had a very similar situation last year in preseason. He was on his own field. He was just working out by himself off to the side, wasn't involved with the team at all. He was just getting in reps. They're like, "Yeah, we're going to try and move you, buddy." Never happened. And then look what happened to him.
It's crazy. The running backs have been kind of flying off the board here. I am glad I took Ramondre to go with Eckler. I was hoping Metcalf would fall to me. I feel like there's a bit of a tier gap from like Metcalf down to the Debo in Ridley. So I might use my Josh Allen cover and just go for a really high upside swing with Kyler here and know that. Yeah. And Kyler, he's tough, right? Because I think in most scenarios, you're not getting a full season from him. The Cardinals suck. But in the scenarios where he is back, where he does play those games, like he's a massive value in this format. And Allen kind of gives me a little bit of house money to play with. I don't need Murray as my starting quarterback. He's going to be competing with my flex plays in the Superflex. So I don't know. I just didn't like anything else on the board. I guess I could have taken Calvin Ridley, but I do worry when you are on either side of the board in Superflex of being subjected to a huge quarterback run. And if I come back and then my next available option is like Brock Purdy, then I'm like, shit, I wish I took a quarterback.
Yeah.
I feel that. There was a good amount of quarterbacks available there still. So I like that you went with the highest upside for sure. Name that you had mentioned in there. I already lost it. I was getting caught up in my pick. Oh, Calvin Ridley, who just went off the board. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Very quick tip. Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk ADP discussion. I have them exactly flip-flopped. Last time me and Andrew discussed this, Ridley's at 18, Kirk is at 26. I have them exactly flip-flopped. Where do you stand on that? Because I like the idea of Calvin Ridley, but you kind of see him go, and then you have that nice little buffer of probably like 7 to 9 picks, I feel like, where you have that opportunity to take Kirk right after.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like I like Christian Kirk a lot. I've been like a Christian Kirk truther. Even when he was on the Cardinals, I was like scooping up in Dynasty when everyone had abandoned him. I was like, Cliff is going to unlock him in the air raid offense. And it like never happened. So it's hard to get me to say anything bad about Kirk. But what I will say is I feel like we know what Christian Kirk is and what we're going to get from him. And I do think maybe last year represented close to his ceiling. And not that I don't think he can't do that again, but Ridley, we do know, has the path to being like a high-end 25% plus target share earner. And so I do think there's a little bit more risk for him. And I think that risk applies to Zay Jones and Evan Ingram too. Like if Calvin Ridley returns to form, like he's going to be a target hog, and that has to come from somewhere. And so I think the ADPs are pretty efficient there, but I have been selecting both. Like when Ridley is there at ADP, when Kirk is there, I like both of those guys.
I've definitely done some pure Jags stacks for sure. Just give me the whole team because I'm a big proponent of them this year, and we all love Calvin Ridley here at SGPN. We're all about Team DGen, you know.
Yeah,
it was more criminal what they did to him than what he actually did, in my opinion.
Well, for sure. And if you read like his piece in the Players Tribune was so good, and he was so honest, and we can all say how like, yeah, what he did he need to apologize for that? But the fact that he was willing to kind of do that, admit his wrongs by the letter of the law, and then talk about, you know, how he played injured a couple years ago, it just got me so fired up to root for Calvin Ridley this year. He definitely won me over. You know, he was just like any other avatar that we draft in these leagues, and that, you know, article humanizing him and getting a peek behind the curtain. I'm definitely a Calvin Ridley fan for life now.
Oh, absolutely. I was a big fan of his a couple of years back. I traded, it was like Chris Godwin and a first for Calvin Ridley. That's how in I was on him. I was just like, screw it. I don't need a future. Just give me Calvin. And then he got hurt and then he got suspended. It was fantastic. Typical fantasy football.
So Pete, sell me on Trey Lance here. I'm not a Trey Lance guy, but I know you can't quit him. I just watched your stream the other night where you got him again. And like, so sell the people on Trey Lance, because a lot of talk is that he can't win the job. He's still injured. Kyle Shanahan doesn't really like him. Like, how do we get on board with Trey Lance?
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is I hear all of the arguments about the Niners appear out on him. We haven't seen a huge sample size. The sample size we have seen hasn't been that bullish for him. To me, not a lot has changed since the offseason. I do think things changed when Brock Purdy emerged last year, right? That was clear. Brock Purdy was playing well. The Niners were committed to him. But Brock Purdy now, and now I'm going to have to maybe just commit to the bit and draft Trey Lance here.
Don't do it. Oh, damn.
I'm either going to take one of my two loves. It's either Trey Lance or Kyle Pitts. It's just like, which bullshit. I just took Drake London, though, so I don't like taking both London and Pitts together. So I'll take Lance and expand on this. And I think that not a lot has changed since, in that I'm not worried about Sam Bradford. What I am worried about is if Brock Purdy is ready to start the season. And everything you read about his surgery with this elbow and stuff, like best case scenario is he's back like week 1 or 2. And so to me, how many times have we heard about these injury timelines? I think it's more realistic that Brock Purdy's ready, you know, the first third of the season, maybe the first half. And so then you're telling me Trey Lance just has to beat out Sam Bradford to be the starting quarterback in a really good offense with a smart coach and probably the best weapons in the league. I almost think that it will be very tough for him to fail from a fantasy standpoint in that environment. And in the same way Brock Purdy ran away with the job when he snapped off a bunch of wins in a good environment, I think Trey Lance could do that. If you give Trey Lance a 6-week head start, he's racking up some wins, he's improved a little bit. That's going to be a tough job to take away from him. So I just think if we're getting a nice discount on a guy whose tools have not changed and the environment is still ripe, I'm willing to bet on that at these prices, even if I understand there's some risk there.
Yep. Do you think that people should be taking, if they have the chance, Lance and Purdy, or are you not optimizing the amount of points that you could get with your roster structure at that point?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you think that it's a good idea for people to take Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, or is that just not going to optimize your like roster construction points?
I normally am like out on that kind of stuff, more so in like Best Ball Mania when you only have 18 slots. I do think in these 20 round, you do have a bit of a luxury. And the other thing about it is I never liked if you're like handcuffing two backs that have like a top 880 ADP. So take like, if you were taking Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, I'm like, I don't know, man, that seems like a lot of draft capital on one position, but Brock Purdy's been basically free. And so if you're getting, Trey Lance in the 12th or 13th round, and then you're getting Brock Purdy as your 18th round pick and like a 3 quarterback build, like, I don't mind that. I'm not going to turn my nose up at that because you're not expending like a ton of draft capital and you're getting the starting quarterback in a Shanahan-led, very potent 49ers offense. I don't find that to be egregious.
Okay.
BFFL sniping me was egregious. I was okay with you taking Trey Lance because, I watch all of the Trey Lance shorts and videos that you put out, so it's very on brand. I was okay with it, but I was a little upset with my Debo Samuel correlation. I wanted to bring that back around. To take Kyle Pitts, I'm like, oh, it's fine, it's cool. I'll take Desmond Ridder in like in a round or two. No, BFFL, egregious.
Yeah, and I mean, we're now at the point here where we're starting to run out of like quarterbacks that we know for a fact are going to start 17 games. Like, right. I think Mac Jones is going to be a starter for 17 games, but after him, I think you're making assumptions about basically all of these guys.
Yeah. I'm a big Sam Howell guy, obviously, Commanders fan. So do you think Howell wins the job?
See, I'm with you, man. I like Sam Howell. I really liked what I saw from him last year. I've been stacking him up a ton with Dotson, McLaurin. I like him. And the fact that he's always here, people are starting to get in my head about it a little bit. Karain over on Ship Chasing keeps telling me this is going to be a Jacoby Brissett situation. And I'm just like, it's like unstoppable force versus a movable object where it's like Sam Howell, they have to see what they have in him. They have to give him reps. And yet the Commanders, and I cover your ears, are such an inept franchise that I just don't have a ton of faith in them to not screw this up. And so I'm really confused, but I've been drafting the hell out of Sam Howell in these.
Yeah. Does Karain think it's a Ron Rivera move to put Brissett in?
Whoever has Daniel Jones, I'm sorry, I'm sniping you on Darren Waller there.
I got him.
What's that? Andrew?
Yeah. Does Karain think that it's a Ron Rivera move to put Brissett in? Is that where his head's at?
Yeah, I think it's that, Brissett was pretty good last year. Ron Rivera is clearly in self-preservation mode. But my thought is this. It's like, to me, isn't the worst case scenario like a Mariota Ritter situation from last year where, say, Brissett wins the job to start, but then eventually it's like, Brissett is not your future. Like, you have to find out what you have in Sam Howell. The end goal of all of this is to find a franchise quarterback. And the one bit of action we saw from Sam Howell was like really encouraging. So it's just like, as a franchise, to not take a long look at that would be absolutely egregious. And I'm just hoping that common sense wins out there.
Yep. Yeah, no,
we hope the same because we have not been drafting or stacking with Jacoby Brissett at all. So
yeah,
we have no intention.
I'm the same way because normally, like, there are some of those guys, like, yeah, you say you have Brandon Ayuk, someone takes Trey Lance, Brock Purdy's always there for you. The thing is like, you rarely get boxed out to Jacoby Brissett because Sam Howell is always there for you. And I prefer Sam Howell to Brissett.
Yeah.
Andrew, you want to hit on our last word from Underdog here before we get into the final half of this draft?
Yep. Let's see here. Yeah. So obviously we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a great place to get down on fantasy and player props all year long. Underdog Fantasy has your favorite NBA, NHL, and MLB daily games. Plus, they're already doing best ball drafts for the 2023 NFL season. Head over to underdogfantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN.
Pete, do you have a specific strategy that you like to roll with? Me and Andrew have been very anti-robust RB. I mean, I think we have probably more starting lineups with Samaje Perine as our first running back drafted than we do Austin Eckler or even Saquon or CMC. Well, what are your thoughts like when you're going into a draft? Do you just kind of let the board come to you? Do you have any predeterminations that you're looking to complete?
I mean, I'm definitely a zero RB drafter at my core. And I think in like most average draft rooms, I'm probably doing a zero RB build or an anchor RB build, taking one at the top and then waiting. But as Andrew and you guys probably know, a lot of my streams are filled with people who also are zero RB people. And all of a sudden, sometimes the best values are running backs. And so I'll be forced to start with 2 running backs. And to me, the thing I've learned too, and looking at the data, and I'm actually working on a long form video at this, looking at Karain's lineup and also the lineup that won first place in the regular season. And the thing I always come back to is different draft strategies are viable with running backs, but it all comes down to quantity or quality, not both. Where zero RB drafters go wrong is sometimes they'll draft way too many wide receivers despite, starting with 5 or 6. And the way running back drafters go wrong is they'll start with 2 or 3 and they'll keep drafting them and in round 8 and round 9. And so just understanding how you're deploying your capital at the position and thinking of it almost like an auction dollar budget. I have this much money to spend on running backs, $100. And if I take a first round pick, well, that's like 80 of my budget. And then I'm going to, be a little bit thin throughout the draft. And so if you think about it on that sliding scale, I'm almost structurally agnostic.
I love that.
It is funny. You have the monopoly on sayings. Piss boy draft, avalanche, like all these things make your streams what they are. It's fucking hilarious to listen to the stuff that you say. And it's funny that I watch the comments and people are like, what the hell is he talking about? Piss boy draft. Until they like finally realize it's so hilarious. So like, do you just come up with these things on the fly, or is this stuff that you think about and just write down and like, all right, I'm going to use this moving forward until it's a thing?
I think most of the stuff comes up organically, like stuff like that. If you try to force it and you try to make something a thing, it will often not become a thing. So yeah, there's been a bunch of fun things. I want to say the pissing yellow came because of on ship chasing over when we drafted on FFPC, tight ends were purple. And our friend Crack Rock used to call that cranking purple. And I think people were joking around being like, well, what's our version? We don't crank purple. We take a bunch of wide receivers. Well, it's yellow. We're pissed at yellow is what that ended up being. And then it ended up getting immortalized because Sean Siegel, the godfather of zero RB, someone made me a bet that I couldn't get him. It was Sam Sherman, our host of ADP Chasing, made me a bet that I couldn't get Sean Siegel, who's a very I don't know how to describe him. He's very professional. He's very on point, doesn't get too loose, that I couldn't get him to say piss boys on a stream. And so at the end of a draft a couple summers ago, I basically coaxed him into saying, I guess we're finally piss boys. And then it kind of just became its own thing.
That's awesome.
It's just hilarious. And like, obviously all the clips you guys do, like Sky Moore, Visca, that shit is just, it's entertaining. And I love when you guys have a Ben Gretsch on. He always seems like he wants you to roll the clip no matter what it is. It's a great time.
The problem is we haven't seemed to land on a good player with the clips. I have like 15 clips in the StreamYard hopper and I go through the names. I'm like, you're a bust. You're a colossal disappointment. JJ Taylor, I don't even know if you're in the league anymore. So one of these days we will hit on an actual good player with a clip.
I mean, Sky Moore's yet to be determined, right? I think that's one that you have in the wind here.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, Leone was starting to give us a little pushback. He thinks it's kind of crazy that the market is still taking Sky Moore ahead of a guy like MVS. But even just aside from like the ship chasing mush, when you pull back and if you just historically make bets on second year wide receivers who just showed anything in year one, and I think the anything for Sky Moore is that he still plays with the best quarterback of all time. That's his anything. Oh, yeah. You can talk yourself into it. But if someone wanted to tell me, hey, Alec Pierce is a way better cost adjusted bet as a second year potential breakout, like I'm not going to push back on that.
Right. Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that as well. Speaking of Leone, I started reading his best ball manifesto. Great content, man. That is like something that, and I know he mentioned it yesterday on the stream that it's pretty long read, which it is, but there's a lot of good content in there. Is that something that you were interested in? Like, did he ask you for your thoughts on it or any of that, or did he just run with it and just start typing and now created this manifesto?
Oh no, Leone does not need me to do any of his data research, although it is flattering that, because I remember last year when I was working on my week 17 video with Michael Dubner, and I thought we showed some pretty compelling evidence, but Leone was definitely skeptical. He was more so on team like, look, just get as many teams as you can into the playoffs, let chaos take control. So it was kind of cool and validating to see that his research from last year really backed up that you need to be game stacking in week 17 to really realize your EV in these contests. So that was validating, but no, Leone is an absolute data whiz, and the way he's able to kind of slice and dice that from all of those different perspectives and give us some really actionable takeaways and even some thought-provoking ones, even down to, the barbell strategy where everyone's like, you either want to draft early or late. And his data like shows the opposite. It's like, well, last year drafting in the middle of the summer was actually optimal as far as getting ADP value and making sure your players stayed healthy. So yes, if anyone's watching this stream, plays best ball, it's a free article up on Establish the Run. He still has 2 more pieces to go. I can't recommend it. It's definitely going to be the best piece of best ball content released this summer.
Yeah, it says here, so far part 1 and 2 is stacking and ADP value. Part 3 is roster construction, which comes out tomorrow. And then part 4, grading drafts. That is the 17th of April. So pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm super stoked on that. I did just get sniped by a couple of picks here. I was like, oh man, I would like to stack up Josh Allen with Dawson Knox. He goes. I was like, I'd like to add Eli Mitchell to the San Francisco bet. He goes. And now I'm staring at Sky Moore, which I don't know if I want to do that.
The offer
Topical pick. Topical pick.
I know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty balanced structurally. 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 1 tight end. I hate this. Fine. Let's just lean into the bets. I talked about Bateman. I just took Sky Moore just for the bet.
Love it.
What's your take on Chig here? I am a believer that he can take a big next step. But I've read conflicting information about what people think he will do next year. Do you think he can thrive in this offense and take a leap as a second-year player?
I like Chig. He's a guy I want to be betting on. I do think it's a little interesting that the market has kind of decided that he's almost the best bet of some of these second-year breakout tight ends. Like, I was more impressed with Dulcich. And this, I love you. You guys have an uncanny way of getting me to talk about players that I'm going to end up drafting. I guess I'll just take Chig here, keep talking about him. But I was just going to say that, like, to me, like, Dulcich is a far better bet in year 2 than Chig, just when you factor in the quarterback uncertainty and how much Tennessee runs. But yeah, like, just in general, these second-year tight ends and rookie tight ends, I think, make it very viable to do a lot of 3 tight end builds, because there's so many of these guys who I can tell myself a story that they'll be relevant down the stretch in 2023.
Do you think you brought up Dulcich? Is there any way Albert O beats him out? Because last year we saw Albert O has the skill of, a lot of good tight ends, but obviously the coaching staff kind of fell out of favor with him. With the new coaching staff coming in, do you think Albert O is in play at all?
I do. I mean, I think it's more Albert O's in play than I think it's maybe going to come at the expense of Greg Dulcich cratering. Like, all the stuff we've looked at from, like, yards per route run. I know JJ Zacharyson had spun up a tight end model, and Greg Dulcich scored incredibly well in that. I do understand where you're coming from, because so much of the Dulcich thing was the Nathaniel Hackett infatuation with him. And it's like, well, what if that's gone? Because Hackett's not there. So I get that. But I do just think Dulcich is good and he's going to earn targets. So I'm a little less weary of that. And I do think there's room for, both Dulcich and Akui Bunam to be kind of relevant in that offense. So Akui Bunam's free. I have no problem tacking him on to stacks with Russell Wilson. That's really the only place I've been taking him, though.
He's definitely going to get a bump. I mean, with how often Sean Payton's offense is going to run the ball, I'd have to believe that Albert O has a little bit of room on the run blocking and pass blocking over Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich can set the edge to a degree, but man, Okwuegbunam's size and his athleticism and his width, that really helps the run game. So I think he's definitely going to get snaps for sure. I mean, we saw plenty of games where he wasn't even dressing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Last year's Broncos year, you almost have to throw it out. It's kind of how I thought about the Urban Meyer year with the Jags, where it's like, can we really learn anything from this? I mean, Nathaniel Hackett was such a train wreck. Russell Wilson was such a train wreck. Obviously, there's continuity with Russell still being there, but I almost want to just throw out last year and kind of, reset with this team and now see what can they do with a competent head coach.
Are you a Broncos fan, Pete?
I grew up in Denver, and so I grew up a hardcore Broncos fan. So, when we won the Super Bowl with Elway back-to-back in 97 and 98, the Terrell Davis, Mile High Salute, Rod Smith, Christian McCaffrey, his dad, Ed McCaffrey, all of those teams were very near and dear to my heart. But then fantasy ruined me, and I stopped caring about laundry. And now I only care about my exposures and structural draft strategies.
That's fair. I'm a Bears fan, so that's been my way since my whole life, really. I was born in '89, so you grew up with your entire family talking about the '85 Bears like it's the Bible, and then you just and then you turn on the TV and you're just like, this is our Bible.
Hey, I mean, it's been a long, dark road for the Bears fans these past few years, but I mean, if there's one team that could just break out and explode in a major way this year, I mean, the Bears have to be like the top candidate to do so. So I don't know. I feel like you're entering a fun stretch here as a fan.
I'm hoping so. I saw Mark Sanchez giving some real love to Justin Fields, some type of test that they offer to all pro athletes about like how quickly they can go through reps and really learn something and call back to it, meaning essentially that how fast it takes you to learn a skill or an asset in the game. And players like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, like they have good scores. Like over 100 is like really good, like 105, 108 for players like that. Justin Fields scored 130. Yeah. So people that are worried about the deep ball, the kid's trying to figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think you can't undersell enough like what DJ Moore is going to do for that offense. Because they already had some explosive pieces last year. We saw Mooney and Kmet make big plays, and now you get like a true number one threat in there. I think even getting rid of David Montgomery is a bit of addition by subtraction if we get to see more Khalil Herbert or they draft someone exciting there. So yeah, I'm in on the Bears, man. I think they're a super, super fun team to stack up in fantasy.
Yeah, if they don't attack Bijan at 9, I mean, that's my prayer, of course. If they don't, then I would hope that they back it up with, like a skill set guy, like a speed guy or like a blocking guy, like blocking like Roshan Johnson or a Devin Akane, maybe if they wanted to go speed oriented, somebody that just can do something. Like they can get on the field and they'll just have a role and they'll have a purpose.
I wonder if they do go a little bit more like bigger bodied back, just knowing that they like Khalil Herbert kind of in that change of pace, pass catching role. Like I just selected Roshan Johnson, who I know can pass protect a bit himself, but like a bigger back that they feel better about at the goal line. I could see them doing that as kind of like a complimentary piece.
Oh, man, we get to the point of the board here where I'm like, there's so many so many ways I can
back
turn
end of the draft.
It's not a bad thing. There's so many ways I can like take this team, and I always hate deciding what to do here
because I'll just start creating reasons to draft people, like just like oh, Carson Wentz, yeah, he'll get on a team 20th round. Screw it. I only have one quarterback. Not in this format. Don't do that here. Don't do that in Superflex. Maybe when we get the single QB back, he'll be on a team. Who knows?
It's like Alex Pierce. So Pete, I want to ask you. So last year, myself and I know Indiana Jones, whose team Ramrod in the draft here, we did the Best Ball Cardio Club. Is that coming back? Yeah, is it coming back? I do have my tank. I didn't want to wear it because I like. Do you really wear the band's T-shirt when you go somewhere? Like you don't do that to the concert. So I was gonna wear it, but I didn't have it. So is that going to be a thing again? Like, what's the plan with that?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you say that. I was wearing my Underdog Cardio Club tank earlier today because I was doing some yard work, and it's like ridiculously hot here. And I had the thought to myself, I'm like, oh man, we're almost to tank top on stream weather here getting the summer. Nice. But yes, I was actually talking with Rudman the other day. Underdog Cardio Club is coming back. It's going to be bigger this year. And I think there's even going to be some maybe like community challenge elements to it. Last year we were getting it off the ground. This year, it might be, the Deposit Kingdom or the SGPN, Underdog Cardio Club, who can get the most Underdog Cardio Club drafts. There's going to be new merch rewards, all kinds of that stuff. So details to come, but yes, Underdog Cardio Club is back, and it will be even bigger and better this year.
Oh, that's so exciting, man. It was so much fun, and it's a great way to get people exercising. I'm assuming a lot of us are sitting down on our couch drafting, like not doing a whole lot. So it's a great way to draft and, also stay healthy in the meantime. So I thought that was a great idea by you guys last year, and it took off. I mean, I saw a lot of people posting all the time over Twitter, look what I just drafted while doing cardio. So that was a great initiative by you guys.
Well, and it's part of why, we were joking about the slow draft stuff on ship chasing last night. It is really, we all love to draft, but if you can stack it and, combine it with either a positive activity or being able to multitask and do something else at the same time, I think that's a big win. So, I mean, just being on, what was your cardio machine of choice? Were you a Stairmaster or what were you doing?
So I have a bike from Peloton. So I was normally doing that, but I would also get out and we have like a lake near our house, so I can walk around the lake. And I have an app that'll track me like how far I walk and stuff like that. But I mean, mainly it was on the Peloton.
Yeah. I mean, because some stuff like Stairmaster for me was the easiest because I'd set it right there. You're kind of going easy swipes. I have attempted rowing machine cardio club where I got like a little holder for my phone, but like rowing and trying to swipe was just like real hard. But yeah, I do love the idea of being able to get exercise while knocking out a draft.
Yeah. Justin, we'll have to do that. So we're all pumped up for the Fantasy Expo.
That's right. That's right. Apparently,
I
you
think
and I
I'm
are
going
going
to go to that this year. I haven't been in previous years. Hasn't worked out with my schedule, but I believe I'm going to try to swing that this year. It seems like a great time.
It is a fantastic time. We are hosting the Friday night party, SGPN. So definitely get there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nice.
What's the any details on the party? What's going on?
No, just that we got it. We're the headliner there. That's all that I got so far.
So you said you're doing like 60 minutes of stand-up comedy as the headliner?
Not me. We might ask you to get up there. Our boss Sean is a comedian. They had like a comedy club in their garage. He has his own thing. I think another guy
he
Colby
worked on
that works with us
Ridiculousness as well. I know he wrote for Rob Dyrdek as well. So I think he wrote a lot of jokes.
Tight.
Yeah.
This is the reason I bought a Peloton. Is that your wife, Andrew?
No.
Oh.
With the last name of Miller?
I don't know.
Different last name.
The old YouTube handle. I don't know.
No. I know Stephanie. I believe she goes to the Fantasy Football Expo, and I know she does best ball draft. She's all over Twitter as well. So, I did see tomorrow night, Pete. I think you're doing best ball after dark with Hope.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I've been doing those for YouTube members, so I definitely appreciate the people who are members either to Ship Chasing or my channel, which is basically just like the Patreon version of YouTube. So I like to do some exclusive member content. So I've done some fun shows. Did one with Chess Liam a couple weeks ago, Leone last week, and Hope, who it sounds like you guys know, super sharp lady in the best ball streets, also has been streaming a lot. And so yeah, I'm excited to get to know Hope a little bit more and draft with her tomorrow night.
I gotta ask, you mentioned the other day on a stream that you're working with somebody on thumbnails. Is it Hope? Because I know you're infatuated with her thumbnails.
You know what? I don't know if I could afford Hope. No, it's not Hope. But someone had reached out to me because for years I've made my own thumbnails, and it's not even that I mind doing it, but I make like 6 to 7 a week, and it's started to add up. One, I'm not good at it. I'm like average. And 2, it takes me a ton of time. And I was like, I just need to sack up, pay someone to make these and take this off my plate. So, but Hope, if you do want to make thumbnails and you have an affordable rate, I'm definitely down.
Yeah, she has some great streams. I love hopping in the drafts. It's funny, like when I try to draft when you're doing like best ball breakfast on Monday mornings at 10, it's so hard to hop in those drafts because everyone is just clicking to get in. It's easy to get in with like Hope in them because she's still starting up right now. So I love being able to get in with some of these content creators that I know I can actually get in and draft with. I think I've only drafted with you about 3 times, and it's just I'm always stuck in another draft. So I watch the stream while drafting something else. I'm like, damn it, so hard to get in there.
That's what's the new term is. There was the overflow drafts, and now people call them the underflow because they're trying to get in ahead of time. And,
Jesus,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the thing is it's not even that. I don't think it should be flattering because it's not that people want to draft for me. They just want their team on screen. They just want to be out there. So it's just like
review my squad.
Yeah.
What do you think about Mike Gesicki?
Even when I do, like we do streams, like last night, for me, I love drafting, but we're talking with Leone, who just did a ton of research. And it's like, I just want to talk to him about all this stuff and dig it. Everyone's just like draft. And I'm like, do you actually want us to draft, or do you just want to see your name up on the screen while we draft? Because let's listen to what Leone has to say about all this interesting research.
Yeah. That's it is funny to know because we have people who follow us that will only see them when we know we're going to be live drafting. And I'm like, well, I mean, you just want to see it up on screen. And they'll be like, hey, can you look at my team? Like, how do you guys think I did? And I'm like, I don't mind doing that, but it is funny. I'm sure for somebody who has thousands of followers, that's such an easy thing for them to do is hop on there and be like, hey man, I'm in the draft with you. Do you see my team? I'm 2 behind you. Do you see me?
Well, last year I had even gotten like a little precious when I started doing the best ball after dark streams. It was because I was like, I just want to do a normal draft in a normal room where everyone isn't taking all the players that I like and vacuuming up all my wide receivers. I'm far less precious about it now. It's like, it is what it is. I should be able to navigate a room that is very wide receiver heavy and still draft a good team. So I kind of embrace the challenge now. And no, I'm all jokes aside, I'm very appreciative that people are excited to watch the streams and hop in the drafts and stuff. So yes, no, I appreciate everyone, even if I sometimes get mad and call them chat rats.
I saw the guy the other day. I forget who it was, but he sniped you on the Zay Jones. You got you were full on tilt, man. That that was
Well, it's
something to
just
see.
like you
It
get
did make
sniped on
sense,
like a
yeah.
really good player, and you're like, okay, yeah, you also want Stephon Diggs. That makes sense. But when you snipe me on Zay fucking Jones, I'm like, that's just a bridge too far.
It was comically funny to just watch you just full tilt, and I felt so bad for you, but it was so funny.
Oh my God.
So explain to me the pour on on Best Ball Breakfast. What's up with the coffee pour? I mean, I understand the bit, but how did it start?
That's another one where it's like there was nothing like I never was like, oh man, I want to do this bit where I pour a coffee. I think it was I literally was doing the streams in the morning and I drink, a few cups of coffee every morning. And so I think I literally was just like I used to like try to do it off camera. It's just like, hey, I don't want to interrupt the stream. And then I think one time someone like I don't even know. Maybe someone even knows the origins better than I do. But I think one time, like I kind of poured it as like, oh, you want to see what I'm doing? Here you go. And then people were like, ooh, the coffee, the ASMR. And so then I just kind of like leaned into it. And now it's somehow become the like ceremonial beginning to the streams is me pouring my coffee. And then of course, like I still spill sometimes, which is very embarrassing, as a 35-year-old. So yeah, I really don't know why it's become a bit. And it's almost frustrating because now that I have a kid, I'm getting up earlier. And so I'm drinking a lot of my coffee early often by 10 a.m. Eastern. I've already had 5 to 6. I'm like, fuck, I have to go make a pot of coffee because people expect me to pour it on stream.
Yeah. As a guy who has a 4-year-old son and another one on the way, I understand the amount of coffee you have to consume to deal with them on a daily basis. And it's only going to get worse, man. As April starts to move and run around, it just gets worse. You're like, all right, like right now you can do something and she just sits there and hangs out,
Yeah.
right? As soon as they start moving, you're like on the go drafting. You're like looking at your phone, like, all right, they're not dead. All right, I can draft. And it's so hard to do. It is extremely difficult, but it's fun.
Yeah, I know you're right. And yeah, like my nephew's about to turn 2 and like I've started to witness it and I'm like, wow, yeah. And I will say, I mean, I'm genuinely enjoying this stage, but I'm enjoying it now even more the way I hear other parents like yourself describe what's coming to me as a toddler. Cause like I do just love holding this little baby and you kind of have to do what I want you to do right now. And that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah, it gets much more difficult. Justin also has one on the way too, so I talked to him a lot about it. I'm like, I don't want to scare you, but it's like hell on wheels, man. Like they just take off and go. It's like zero respect for you, but it's so fun. Like you wouldn't give it up for anything in the world. It's a really cool thing to be a dad.
Yeah, I'm legitimately loving it. The only thing I wish I had more hours in the day. I feel like that's probably everyone to get to do everything I would like to do. But it's a total blast. It's highly recommend if you were on the fence about having one of your own, go have a child. Promo code Pete will get you 10% off of your diapers.
I have my firstborn due July 4th.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. A little bit of a bone to pick here, though, Pete. As you guys are going on your fatherly rants there, Chubba Hubbard and Michael Carter double snipe. Is that super necessary?
Wait, what? Who did you have? How was I sniping?
Well, no, those are just those are popular picks of mine in the back end of drafts. Michael Carter and Chubba Hubbard are in my top 5 for most exposed RBs. So because we are both reading the same Bible here, can you preach a little bit about Michael Carter and Chubba Hubbard a little bit if my fans haven't heard it enough?
Yeah, Michael Carter was one I was like, oh, he's still here. I feel like I normally don't get a share of Michael Carter in this range. He had slipped, so I clicked that. But Chuba is definitely like one of my targets late round. I just seem to gobble him up. I feel like the pendulum just swung far too much after the Sanders signing. And we saw Hubbard perform really well, even with Deontay Foreman hogging a lot of touches last year. So you're telling me I'm going to get a committee back who's already proven to be good, who's going to have standalone value, and then we know has kind of lead back upside if something were to happen to Sanders. And so I'm like, I don't see any downside at this current price here.
It's a ridiculous rate in my opinion. Yeah, I have him probably about 16 spots up the ADP.
Can I also just say your drafters, one thing in the best ball breakfast is people really make a meal of it. They'll be sitting on the clock. I feel like the SGPN drafters are on top of their shit. Everyone's making picks quickly. Every time I look up, I'm on the clock again.
This draft has went by a lot quicker than most. I don't know if people just like are excited and just clicking buttons or what, but it normally does take a little longer. But yeah, I mean, I've noticed that as well. I mean, on the Best Ball Breakfast, like it'll take forever. I'm at work, like trying to do work while also watching and drafting, and I'm like, damn, like these guys are taking forever.
I know it does sometimes happen. And, I like to have my cake and eat it too. I want to be able to vamp when I'm on the clock and talk and whatever. But then when I'm not, I want everyone else to just speed it up.
Oh, man.
Coming up on our last picks here. I like this draft. Feeling good about it.
I know this is the first Superflex draft I've actually felt good about, and it's because I had a top 3 pick. I'm like, oh yeah, this team kind of looks nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too, like on your drafts, like everyone's taken it. There's gonna be a wide receiver avalanche, like in every single draft. Here, you didn't have the case. I mean, you guys even mentioned at the top we were having a lot of running backs going, so it's like a completely different room than you normally draft in.
It is, yeah, very very different, and just different draft slot. And it is, I do think with Superflex, it would be better to have some kind of 3rd round reversal, because I do really feel like the advantage. I mean, I was even just looking at some basic, those top 3 quarterbacks last year relative to the QB8, QB9, they scored 100 plus more raw points than those guys did. So to think the deficit you're starting in when you pick at the back half of the round 1, it's so massive that you almost need a way to mitigate that. Otherwise it's a really tough hill to climb.
Yeah. Oh man. All right.
Let's see.
So how was it out at the Underdog Super Bowl house? It looked pretty dope. I mean, the backyard was awesome with that like lazy river and shit around there. How was it?
It was fun. Yeah, I've done it. I've done a few with Underdog. Last year we were out in LA, and everyone always assumes like, oh, you're going to the Super Bowl. I'm like, well, I'm not going to the Super Bowl, just going out to a house by the Super Bowl. But we have a ton of fun, and we do a bunch of podcasts. And this year it was even much bigger than our setup last year in LA. We went to the Waste Management Open because that was happening concurrently in Phoenix. So yeah, it was a blast. I always love syncing up with those guys, and it now almost feels like summer camp. It's like, oh, I get to go see my Underdog friends once a year. And it was my first trip I had done post kid as well. So that was both like a little nerve wracking and also kind of a nice change of pace there. They were very nice and gave me a nice room. And they're like, yeah, go get your sleep. We know you haven't been getting much sleep. So yeah, it was a great time.
Tell me that you didn't also think you guys were going to be drafting the inaugural draft. You guys talked about the draft, but it sounded like you were supposed to be drafting in it. So we were all sitting there watching, me and a couple of best ball friends, and we were like, aren't they supposed to be drafting in this? And you're like kind of sitting on the couch, like talking about the draft. So were you not supposed to draft in that?
You know what? I know what you're talking about, and I was confused about that too. Honestly, I was probably like 8 Modelo's deep and just like going with the flow. But that was my understanding too, that we're going to do the inaugural draft, and it didn't happen. I think it was also too, when you're trying to get a bunch of people in the same draft, it's a little hard. So doing the private draft just makes it a little bit more manageable. So I think that was the logic there. But yes, I thought that was the plan as well.
That's so funny.
Andrew, you want to start doing some team reviews here?
Yeah, sure. Let's pop open. Actually, I'll just pop it up on my phone quick.
Yeah, we can hit up Gindy and DK and BFFL.
Yeah. Let me see here. So Gindy, pulls up here real quick. He went Kirk Cousins, Kenny Pickett, Jacoby Brissett for quarterbacks. Running backs, Derrick Henry, James Conner, Jamal Williams, Kenny Gainwell, Jeff Wilson, Cordero Patterson. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, George Pickens, KJ Osborne, Isaiah Hodgins. Tight ends, Tyler Conklin, Jelani Woods, Darnell Washington. Does appear that he was able to stack with all his quarterbacks. Cousins has Justin Jefferson, Pickett. He has Deontay Johnson. He has Scary Terry with Jacoby Brissett. So yeah, he does have some stacking in there. Not as much stacking as I would have liked, but I do like a majority of his players. I would give him a 7.5 here. I'd like a little bit more stacking, but outside of that, I give him about 7.5.
Yeah, I'm just going 7 on the Pickett and Brissett. And that's what I got there. I like the Cousins Jefferson stack. I'm an advocate of it. I'm going JJ first, but I don't like how you backed it up. And that is kind of the penalty of going, no QB in the first round.
Yeah.
So we got 7.5. We got 7. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I'm looking at this team. I like the value on Devontae Adams, even the value on Derrick Henry. I do think, look, I'm down to push quarterback. Trust me, I am, but I do think you have to attack it hard with volume. I don't know if Jacoby Brissett as a QB3 is enough. I'd like to see even a fourth kind of quarterback tacked on there, I think. But I do like how they leaned into the stacking. I think going out and getting Osborne in addition, Pickett with Johnson. And, that was another big takeaway from the Leone article of the real benefit of 3 quarterbacks isn't like, shuffling around this quarterback to help fill these spots. It's that it gives you access to another potential unique stack in the playoff weeks. So where, say this drafter, say Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson's the absolute nuts this year, and everyone shows up in the playoffs with that same stack. Well, all of a sudden that stack fails in the same way Justin Jefferson failed in week 17 this past year. Maybe it's Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson picking up the slack. And then you show up in week 17 and maybe it's Jacoby Brissett to Terry McLaurin picking up the slack. So I do really think if you're going to get that third, fourth quarterback, making sure it's stacked is how you actually realize the full benefits of that.
Yep.
Good feedback.
Completely agree.
What do you think about BFFL? Or go through him, Andrew.
Yeah. All right. BFFL here. Let's pull it up. So he went quarterbacks: Jordan Love, Desmond Ridder, Brock Purdy, Ryan Tannehill. It's an interesting one.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, it can work, but that's going to be a tough one to overcome. Running backs: Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Abankanda. That's such a difficult name. Kendre Miller, James Robinson, D'Ernest Johnson, Ty Chandler, Jamar Chase, Christian Watson, Traylon Burks, Elijah Moore, Romeo Doubs, John Mechie, Cedric Tillman, and tight ends Travis Kelce, Juwan Johnson. His quarterbacks are interesting. There's definitely some hit rate there that could work, but there's a lot of fail rate there too. But go for the gold, right? So that one's interesting. He was able to stack. He has both Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs to go along with Jordan Love. Travis Kelce was an absolute great value for him, 4 picks behind ADP. I definitely would have took him if he would have left him there for me 1 pick later. And he got Bijan 8 picks later as well. So overall, the ADP value that he got on this team is very good. Was able to stack a little bit. It's the quarterbacks that suck it down for me a little bit. I'll give him a 7.
I'm going 6.5. It's the back end RBs for me. If you want to dabble with 1 or 2 of these guys, cool. But James Robinson, D'Ernest Johnson, Ty Chandler, I actually like D'Ernest Johnson the most of anyone in that group. Of course, Abankanda and Miller could be nice lottery tickets with good landing spots. I think that we trust Bijan, and Breece will bring home reliable production. But as you guys have noted from my previous show, Christian Watson, he is an ADP villain for me. He is someone that I'm taking much farther beyond his ADP and his position ranking. So I'm not overly obsessed with the receivers as well. Feel like Traylon Burks could be good, but I'm just not loving it at his ADP. He took him right at his ADP, pick 104 at ADP 105. Love Kelce. Again, just not backed up. So I'm going to go with 6.5 here.
Pete?
This overall structure, I actually like if you're not chasing the high end quarterbacks with kind of watered down quarterbacks, getting like Bijan and Breece are guys I like a lot. I like that he prioritized some stacking. I like that he attacked the quarterback position with volume. I guess what I would say is, as someone who's drafted in the back end of the round, when you can get like a Diggs or an AJ Brown, I do wonder if you just take the Herbert pick there, because I do think Herbert is in that kind of top tier there. Mm-hmm. And then just knowing the difference. And then, I've struggled with Kelce. We were drafting on Splash Play the other day and Spags took him. Kelce's obviously awesome, but I do just think structurally, when you know how far behind you're going to be at other positions and knowing it's pretty easy to get to 3 tight ends in this format with the 20 rounds, this and the big board, I've been gravitating away from it. So if I'm doing a non-quarterback pick in my first few rounds, I really am avoiding an elite tight end pick there as well, because then I think it just puts me behind the 8 ball at multiple positions. But in general, like if you told me someone started with Chase Kelce, I feel like this is a pretty good recovery.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said, I would have took Kelsey if he would have fell one more spot to me. Let's move on to the last one here. DKM Dilly Dilly. He went Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, Tyler Huntley. I like that a lot. Running backs, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Rashad Penny, AJ Dillon, Elijah Mitchell, Tank Bigsby, Gus Edwards. Wide receivers, Amari Cooper, Jamison Williams, Chris Godwin, Gabe Davis, Alan Lazard, Josh Palmer, Russell Gage, and then tight ends, George Kittle, Gerald Everett, Isaiah Likely. He was definitely able to stack. I do like those stacks. I probably would have taken another wide receiver instead of another running back here. I would have cut it off after Tank Bigsby personally. I don't think Gus Edwards really does anything for the team unless J.K. Dobbins goes down again. But I mean, I don't think he's a league winner by any means. But overall, I mean, very good structure. I give him an 8.
This is the Lamar Jackson leaves town team. He's got the Tyler Huntley stack backed up with the Gus Edwards. I was looking for another Baltimore player. Oh yeah, Isaiah Likely as well.
Yeah.
So he's got the abandoned Lamar strategy. I like this team more than I like the last team just because of the quarterback quality and the stacking. So I'm gonna go with 7, back up to like Gindy territory. Jamison Williams definitely going to be what I refer to as like a wild card at his ADP. He went at pick 81, ADP 78. Not bad, pretty fair price there. But as the second receiver, might be a little bit more risky. But overall, I like it, like I said, more than I like the last team. So I'll go with the 7.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like this team. I think they really, they made a lot of selections, like player selections that I don't personally love, but the way they allocated capital to the positions, like if you're going to use your first 2 picks on these quarterbacks, like I don't like taking Deshaun Watson there. I don't think he's worth that price, but if you're going to do it, you are making a bet that he is returning to form and he's delivering there, and you are punting your next quarterback selection until deep. So maybe even punted it a little more than I'd be willing to, but because you're behind the 8 ball at wide receiver there, like you need to start using those mid-round picks on wide receivers. I mean, Godwin in the 8th, incredible value. I love Gabe Davis in the 10th. I wish he would have fallen to me as the Allen team. Even Lazard and Palmer are pretty good value picks. So I feel like this drafter really understood, hey, this is where I've spent and this is how I'm going to do it. I do agree with you. The one maybe structural misstep, and I forget if you guys said it, I don't think you need 3 tight ends with this build. Like once you use Kittle, I think Kittle and Everett or Kittle and Likely is plenty. I kind of had a similar decision, Walker and Chig. If I had a stack, like if Trey McBride would have fallen to me, I maybe would have done it. And I understand that they were getting kind of like the Likely Huntley stack, but that seems like a little thin to me. But again, for the most part, I thought this draft kind of understood structure pretty well.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. All right, and then we have our teams. Andrew, you want to go ahead and go through yours?
Yeah, I'll just roll through it real quick. We don't have to grade it unless Pete wants to roast my team here because I was just so enthralled with talking to Pete that it went off the rails a little bit here. Quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Tua, and Sam Howell. Running backs, Aaron Jones, Samaje Perine, Alex Madison, Antonio Gibson, Zach Evans, Jerome Ford, and Chase Brown. Wide receivers, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Jahan Dotson, Jalen Hyatt, Alec Pierce, and Curtis Samuel. Tight ends, Dallas Goedert and Michael Mayer.
As someone who drafts with you a lot, I'm glad that you're starting to pick up on running backs, excuse me. So I'm happy about that.
I was kind of pushing them off at first, but yeah, I'm falling more and more in love with a few of them.
Yeah, I give you a 7.5, but I'm impartial. I got your picture on my wall here, so
Yes.
I like this draft. I think I might have tried to. Hopkins is a guy that I'm just a little out on, but I do love this structure. The fact that you can like backdoor Howell stack so easily in this with Dotson and Samuel is pretty nice. I think Goddard's price is really nice in Superflex right now. Like the fact that he's going this far, like in the big board, he was going significantly higher than Waller. And here, I took Waller 4 picks later. And so like you're getting the much better into the deal there with Goddard at pick 90. And I think you rounded out your 0 RB room well. I'm with you guys on Perine. I took Javonte Williams in this draft. I've been taking both of those guys. It's like I'm just going to shrug my shoulders and say whichever one of those guys is like starting. I feel really good about their 3-down upside in this offense. And so I heard you guys mentioning Perine earlier. I love both Williams and Perine at these prices.
Yeah, I love the ADP for both of those guys. Similar combos that we've both done are Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, of course. That's a great late round double stack. And then Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara. Now that Williams is with the Saints, we've been loving that.
Yep.
All right, my team really quick. I've got Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, Andy Dalton at quarterback. That's rounds 1 and 2, and then round 20 for QB. Followed up with Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Devin Singletary, Leonard Fournette. They're called discount running backs. T. Higgins, Debo Samuel, Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, DJ Chark, Paris Campbell, and Darius Slayton, with 3 tight ends in Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, and Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, not bad. Obviously, I draft with you a lot, so I kind of know where your tendencies lie. I do like the stacks that you have here. I probably would have not taken a third tight end here and took another RB, because the Mixon and Kamara stuff scares me a little bit. Both of them could be suspended, not play at all. That's yet to be seen. But I actually think Devin Singletary is a good pick. His explosive rating last year was like off the charts, and for a guy that's going 176 overall, it's a very good pick, and I like the scheme that D'Amico Ryans is bringing there as well. So I do like your team. You have some players that are also team stacked that you don't have. Like, you have the San Francisco guys, but you don't have a San Francisco quarterback. So I do like the team stacking friendship strategy, if you will. So overall, man, I give you 7.5, 8. It's good.
Yeah, I like the stacking here. You definitely take some players that I'm not as in on. I've done a 180 on Mixon. I was on him up until like a week ago, kind of thinking he was a value. And then that new information about the case, I'm like, I don't know. And then same with Kamara there. So those can be landmines. But again, I'm never going to push back too hard on like high risk, high reward picks in these super top heavy contests. I probably wouldn't have tacked on Gesicki with Schultz and Pitts. I kind of felt like that was maybe a solid, like if you had Mac Jones and you were getting that stack, I think definitely. So that would be my only quibble. And yeah, you're a little weak at QB3. I think being maybe more in that Tannehill, Sam Howell, Will Levis, Mac Jones tier for your QB3 would make me feel a little bit better. But I like this team.
Yeah, taking the shot on Dalton, you gotta pray that they land mine on their draft pick. I'm hoping it's going to be CJ Stroud, but if for some reason they get Bryce Young in there, obviously Dalton, he's signed. He's got a contract. He's the guy on the roster right now. So taking a dart on it. And yeah, there was definitely some prison time packaged into my ADP value. So,
yeah.
Pick 29 for Saquon Barkley. I didn't take another running back until 101, 125, 164. Those are the prison guys. You just got to go after them at some point.
New show idea: heroes and prisoners. Yes. You drafted all the prisoners. Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
That's good.
All right. Well, that is the show, Pete. We really appreciate you coming on.
Wait, no one's gonna grade my team.
Yeah, I was gonna say. You're not gonna let Pete.
So I was just about to do that because Pete had the highest scoring, the highest projected team.
Oh,
that's what I was gonna
see. Normally I say don't pay any attention to those, but tonight the algorithm is very correct on that.
There you go.
Do you want to go over your team, Pete?
Yeah, so go through Pete's team. I was going to thank him for coming on and then say congratulations, you had the top projected team. So you can go ahead, or Andrew can roll through it. I don't care.
I'm not going to plate my own team.
So here I'll go through it, and then if you want to talk us through your process at all, you can feel free. So obviously you went Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Trey Lance. Running backs: Austin Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Roshan Johnson, Jalen Warren, Michael Carter, Chuba Hubbard. Wide receivers: Stephon Diggs, Drake London, Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman, Sky Moore, Rondale Moore, Khalil Shakir, Deontay Hardy, and tight ends Darren Waller and Chig Okonkwo. So I like this team a lot. I'm now with the caveat of I'm not a Murray or a Lance guy, so I don't like your QB 2 and 3, but I do see the upside, in their cases, and you can talk yourself into the scenario that both of them play well, and Murray doesn't miss too much of the season. Your running backs are great. I mean, your first two running backs are all you really need on this team. I'm a big Eckler and Ramondre Stevenson fan, so I love both of them. Javonte Williams, man, if he comes back and is any semblance of himself and at least plays half the year, that's a great pick there as well at pick 118. Wide receivers, great room of wide receivers. I like a lot of these guys as well. You stacked pretty decent amount of your players, actually. And I love your tight ends. Darren Waller could be the #1 target on the Giants, and Chig, again, I mean, I think he's going to take a big leap forward. So I like your team a lot. Let's go 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of some of the weird, but I obviously didn't get any stacking with the Niners. I don't think that's a big deal in the same way, you didn't stack Lamar. Like, you don't have to go out of your way if it doesn't fall right. Yeah, I think the Chig pick was a little weird for me. I was just like talking and kind of not paying full attention. I was like, well, Chig is here, so I'll select him. So like I had said, I think my case against him is I kind of like other tight ends around him or later. So maybe I'd go in a different direction there. But yeah, I mean, I think my running back room is solid. And I will say on the quarterback front, because I've taken so many late round quarterbacks, I am normally taking a guy like Mac Jones, a Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy where I feel like I'm going to get production. When I have Josh Allen, who I'm going to work under the assumption is going to be in my starting lineup, most weeks, I feel like I have kind of a safety net to just really shoot for the moon with these other quarterbacks. And basically in this build, if either Kyler Murray or Trey Lance is like a top 8 quarterback, like I'm just doing windmills with Josh Allen there. So I don't mind kind of like the high upside spray and pray, but yeah, there's a lot of risk between Murray and Lance for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the stacking as well. Buffalo receivers backed up with really great value in Khalil Shakir and Deontay Hardy to close down that group for you. And then that middle group of Rondell Moore and Marquise Brown. If Kyler comes back and is booming and buzzing, that's going to be an absolute home run.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, now we will close out. Thank you, Pete, for coming on and joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you? Anybody that may not follow you now? Obviously, you're, again, like we said before, involved in like a billion things. So why don't you tell people where they can mainly find you?
Yeah, I'd say the best places, my Twitter, at Peter Overzet, I tweet out most of my stuff there. So that's a good spot. Obviously, my YouTube channel, highly recommend subscribing to the Fantasy Life newsletter. That's a free newsletter 5 days a week in your inbox. We're going to have lots of good draft coverage coming up as well and all kinds of good stuff over there. And then, yeah, the Deposit Kingdom Discord is also a great place to be. Lots of best ball talk in there, all kinds of sports, talking strategy there. We got the Badge Bros, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with. They're talking about all the daily strategy in there. So yeah, those would be the big ones: Twitter, YouTube, Discord, newsletters. That gets you covered.
Awesome.
Yeah, great stuff, man. Again, really appreciate you coming on. Anything else to share, Andrew, before we head out?
No, I'll be dropping the ADP villains article tomorrow as well. So be on the lookout for that. It'll help you navigate some of the guys that we believe are going just a little too high in ADP that you may want to steer away from currently. So that should drop tomorrow morning. Correct, Justin?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good deal.
Yep. Good stuff. Thanks for watching. Thank you for following. Take care. Be well, be good. If you can't be good at it. We'll see you.